Hello, everybody. Hello, Shema. Thank you very much for inviting me to this event. I'm really honored. I would have loved to come, especially after Ngugi's visit. You know, Ngugi is not only my friend, but he's also my hero. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm sorry I could not make it. Now, uh, how do I introduce the film? Uh, an opera of the world uh, is based on l'Opéra du Sahel, which was commissioned by the Prince Claus Foundation in Netherlands, and it involved more than 7 African countries, and they produced the opera in Bamako, 2007. I was invited in Bamako to be at the premiere of the Opera du Sahel, and I told them if I come to the premiere, could I film it? So that's how I brought my cameras, my equipment, my crew. We filmed the rehearsals. We filmed the 2 premieres. So I took the footage back to New York, put it away. And 2007, 10 years later, 2017, 2016, Documenta invited me to propose a project. And without thinking too much, I said, oh, I want to do a film on opera because I was thinking about my archives. So I went back to my archives. Well, first they were very excited, and I said, well, you don't know, this man doesn't know anything about opera. You want me to do a film on opera? You'll be fine. So anyway, they were excited, I was excited, and it's Documenta. That's how the project began. Then I began to think, Bintu already, this Sahel opera, the correct title is Bintu Wore, the Sahel opera. So it's about a young woman, along with many unemployed people in Africa who want to go to Europe to find jobs, to gain the dignity back, all the myth that they associate with Europe. So that's what the opera is about. It was shown in Bamako twice or 3 times. It was shown in Senegal, and it was shown in Paris at Théâtre de Châtelet, and it was shown in Amsterdam. And then people say, well, this is not an opera. So the opera died. So my approach to it was, I don't want to just make a documentary on this. How do I pursue, one, the fact that an African opera has died in Europe because the walls are not porous. There is no porosity. Opera cannot travel from country to, from continent to continent, in this case from Europe to Africa. And human beings also are not able to travel from Africa to Europe. So how do I create something around this? And the first thing that came to my mind was to basically think about what is an opera? Why isn't it considered African? And can the opera travel freely? And in order to do that, I thought about an old intellectual that I used to read when I was a graduate student in the United States, Alexander Klug, who was a kind of post-Frankfurt school, and who was well-read, very well-read in the 70s, 80s in the United States, because he had a new approach to film language. And so, when you talk about the German cinema with the Fassbinders, with Herzog, and so on. Kluge was one of the people who were theorizing film language in the 70s. That could be a step ahead of the French post-structuralists, but also even the people earlier, the Bazin and so on. So we used to read Klug a lot in the German critique, the new German critique in the US. So I said, okay, I'm gonna talk to Alexander Klug about this. And then I also have a friend New York University where I work, Richard Sennett, who plays cello, who had always wanted to do an opera. So I basically say I have the element to learn what an opera is because Alexander Klug is a filmmaker. He makes opera films, sometimes 6 hours, sometimes 2 minutes. And Richard Sennett is an intellectual sociologist. And then I had to find an immigration specialist. I read the books of Nicole Lapierre. And then I have to find an African who's been talking about the immigration, the porosity of walls. That's where I came to Fatou Diome, who wrote a book called Le Ventre de l'Atlantique. So for me, I wanted to use not only the people in the Bintu Wore Sahel opera as characters in the film that I was going to make, but also the people I was going to interview: Alexander Klug, Richard Sennett, Nicole Lapierre, Fatou Diome, as characters. That's why I call them prompters in the film. They were characters. They were not specialists. They were all entering in this one world. Because the main influence for the film is Edouard Glissant, who talks about chaos opera, who talks about tout monde, who talks about what are the aesthetics, the new aesthetics in the tout monde that are beyond oppositional binary aesthetics, colonizer, colonized, post-colonialism, decolonial, and so on. What are the aesthetics of relation of this new world that has taken place? So how many minutes are we?
7.
Oh, I'm good. All right. Bear with me. I say one more thing. So, so Glissant was very important in this sense because Glissant is the author, of course, of creolization, the author of relation, the author of tout monde. Why did Glissant come to the tout monde? Because Glissant felt that the world, modernity, colonialism, decolonization, they actually have connected the whole world, as opposed to separating them discreetly in order to exploit them. The whole world become connected. So that's why he called it chaos monde. The chaos monde is not a chaotic monde. It's a monde that in which every voice demands to be heard. Every voice wants its echo to be heard. So this was the inspiring element in the film for me. How do I make every voice heard? How do I make the voice from the Sahel opera equal to the voice of the people also migrating World War II to go to Europe, to go to America, the people from the Hungary moving to, let's say, France or Germany, people from Syria going to Europe. So I wanted to talk about all the immigrations in this chaotic manner so that we can find the aesthetics of linking them. And the camera was doing that for me. So for me, an opera of the world is really, how do I tell my story and how do you hear your story in my story? By telling you my story, which is Bintu Wore Sahel opera story, and you are Walter Benjamin, how do you hear your story in that? You are a Syrian migrant, how do you hear your story in that? This is really what I wanted to make with the film. And I was very lucky. One, it was documental. And two, everybody has understood this concept. It was a very easy concept. So I worked with people, a Syrian editor, a German producer who's based, Jürgen Buck, who's based in Lisbon. It was the easiest film, most expensive, most complex, but the easiest film I've ever made. Thank you again for inviting me. I'm really happy.